We define reality with our senses. Redefine reality. I was listening to Joe Dispenza speak, and the words popped out. We define reality with our senses. Day in and day out, our lives are the same. Our patterns are the same. Our beliefs are the same. We may be unhappy with these patterns. We may be unhappy with these beliefs. We may find they do not fulfill our lives, bringing anxiety and fear and depression. And yet they continue. We are defining our reality by our senses. What are our senses? Taste, tasting our food, tasting the wind. I was raised a vegan, and my taste is completely different than other people's. I'm able to eat a carob pie and enjoy it. Now, I do prefer chocolate. Once I found out what chocolate tasted like. Our sense of taste can be modified. Our sense of taste can be altered. Are we going to define our reality, the reality that we exist in, by our taste? Vision. As we look at things, we might be seeing a color, seeing a mountain, seeing a valley with a river. What do we see with our eyes? Majority of people use vision as their primary sense. The sense they connect to the most. You can hear someone talk and they say, I see clearly, rather than that makes sense or I hear you. When they constantly use something to do with seeing in their vocabulary, you know, vision is their primary sense. But vision is learned. It's learned from the very beginning. When we first open our eyes, somebody who is born blind, maybe their blindness comes from their eyes not working, and they're able to have a surgery and have their eyes changed out. And they're able to see, but their mind isn't able to interpret what they're seeing. An example is when Christ was on this earth, and there's a story told of him helping a blind man to see. And as he touched him, and he could see, he looked around and he said, why are the people upside down? Why are the trees flying? Why are the clouds orange? His perception of what he'd heard all his life of reality was different than the reality he was seeing with his eyes that had been fixed and allowed to see. And then Jesus touched him again and put understanding and wisdom into his heart. And not only was he able to see, but he was able to interpret what he was seeing. So what we see is an interpretation of reality. Are we going to base our reality on our vision? We base our reality on our senses. Smell. Smell is my favorite sense. I think that's one of the reasons that the coronavirus took away the smell. It's because smell is so important. People don't feel smell the way they should or the way they could. And by really sensing and knowing smell, it can be a beautiful sense. A good friend of mine always smelled the same. She wore the same perfume. I've realized I want to start doing that. I want to start wearing a signature odor. Oud. I want to start wearing a signature odor. So when someone's around me, if I'm practicing healing, if I'm practicing cooking food or cleaning my house, whatever I'm doing in life, people recognize me by my smell. So my friend Carol, I could recognize her by her smell very clearly. And one day she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And within a few months, she was going to pass. I was able to see her, and I asked her to put me on her list of people that would be texted when the time came and she transitioned into a new life. As I was walking through my house one day, I could smell her so clearly. She was right there. Smelling her, feeling her energy. That sense of smell. Obviously, it was in the mind because I was not with her, smelling her. So was I going to define my reality with my senses? And within a few minutes, I received the text. She had passed. And in her passing, in her transition, she'd come to say goodbye. And she knew that me truly smelling her essence would be a way for me to know that she had been there. Are we going to define a reality with our senses? Touch. I'm an amazing toucher. I love being touched. I think that's probably one of the hardest ones for me to let go of. Trying to release the patterns of my old life. Letting go of touch in the way I've known it. Embracing it in a new way. Feeling For me, if you say to someone, part of understanding their love language is saying, what makes you really feel loved? I would say being touched. I spent 13 years in a relationship where the person didn't understand that. I began to learn that touch was only something that was part of other intimate experiences. But that wasn't true. My sense of touch was modified. However, I felt the person didn't love me because they didn't touch me in the ways that the non-sexual affection that I needed to feel loved. But that was my reality, not theirs. Are we going to base our reality on our feelings, on our senses? The reality was I was loved, but not in a way that I understood. I feel like I forgot one of them. Let's see. Touch, taste, smell, hear. Of course. I'm talking to you right now. You're listening to this podcast. I realized I'm such a auditory person. Why not offer auditory healing? Sound. So many times that what we hear is not what was said. Somebody can be talking, and then we hear something and it might be completely different. Part of releasing the reality that we have created through our senses is trusting what we hear even more than what is said. Trusting what we hear even more than what is said. Trusting what we know, what we feel, what we sense, what is all around us. Trusting what we hear rather than what is said. In the end, someone could be speaking another language, a language that we don't understand, and yet we can still understand it. I love listening to songs in languages other than my own. I feel I'm able to understand the feeling of the song, the meaning of the song even clearer, because the words are not getting in the way. My mind isn't getting in the way. Are we going to define sound by what our mind hears? Or are we going to define sound by what we feel? I think sound is one of the closest senses. Hearing with our ears is one of the closest senses to our soul. So healing to our soul. One time I read a book. I think I was Think and Grow Rich. And his son was born without ears. And so the doctor said he would never be able to hear. And the dad thought, well, that's silly. We don't need ears. It's a good thing he thought that, because he never once told his son that he can't hear. He learned to speak to his son, communicate with his son. I don't know if it was like touching bones when he talked to him or how it was, but he actually talked and talked and talked to his son, and he heard him, and in the end his son could miraculously hear, even though he had no ears. So again, are we going to define our reality by our senses? Or are we going to redefine our reality? Change the patterns. Walk into a new way of being, a new life, a new path. Einstein says, everything is energy, and that is all there is to it. Match the frequency of your reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy, this is physics. Everything is energy. Match the frequency of the reality you want to create, and it will be created. Frequency creates a reality. The reality that we experience is illusion. The reality that we create is illusion. We can move through the realities that we are creating through our frequency. There's so many, even the cat is able to define its reality through frequency. I heard from someone that when a cat first looks at you, they see your energy, your frequency, and then they see your physical form. So I'm thinking they're using that sixth sense, the being able to feel the frequency of you, enter into the frequency of you through their soul before they even connect with you on a physical level. Right now, I have a ant problem. And another friend I was talking to, she does as well. And we have become so magnetic that we are drawing small creatures to ourselves. So, one reality is that we have an ant problem. Another reality is that we are drawing a team to ourselves. A team that will help us work and function. And when an ant is crushed between your fingers, like it's accidentally doing now and then for me right now, that beautiful smell of sweetness. I used to hate that smell. And now I'm starting to love it. Again, a reality of our senses shifting and changing in our lives. I think that we can look for and watch for the little changes. I'm so grateful that we do have our eyes and our ears and our nose and our mouths and our skin and all the senses that come together. Help us have this beautiful human experience. And as we do that, I know when I go to trade shows, I always buy eggplant dip that I really like. Eggplant garlic dip. And, it tastes so good. It has good taste buds, smells good. It looks interesting. But the packaging is really pretty. All the senses come together in this wonderful eggplant dip. I was working at a place and as a temp worker, and I thought, it'd be nice to take a bottle of this dip there with some chips, because they always have things for people there, and it's nice. But then I forgot about it. I walked into work, opened the fridge, and there was the dip. It manifested before my eyes. It was there. I had not looked in the fridge for several days there, so it's not like I had seen it there ever. It just appeared. Another time, a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to a friend, and they were feeling very trapped, and I said, you're like a bird that's trapped in a house and doesn't know how to get out. And you need to find a new perspective, look at things in a new way to be able to be released. And I came home that night, and there was a bird in my house. It's difficult to remove. So all the peoples say, when your senses begin seeing the little things, the little changes, pay attention, you're on the right path. You're on the right path. '22. One of the cards that I pulled today was befriend your fear monster. And my kids have a book about going to a monster store and picking out a monster. And each one of the monsters and their abilities. One is a tickle monster, and some are, I can't think of the other ones right now, but there's all kinds of monsters. And again, it's perspective. I mean, are we afraid of the monster under the bed, or will we befriend it and have it be one of our friends? How will we look at things to change that reality, match the frequency? A couple of weeks ago, I was supposed to go to California for Christmas break, and I was going to drive there, and things happened to my car, and I had to not only pay for the car, but also not be able to go on the trip. And during that experience, I felt a little bummed that I wasn't going to get to go to California. Of course, the people I was going to go see all got the flu, so it would have been hard to see them during that time, because they were all sick, and with the pandemic as well. And so I was feeling so blessed that I was at home having a wonderful time with my children. And then I woke up one morning and I just felt a huge urge and a need to get something out of my purse. And the funny part is my purse was sitting right next to the bed, but I couldn't see it. Instead, I walked into the garage with my car, thinking, well, the purse must still be in the car. And it was 7 in the morning, and I walked into the garage, and the garage was full of water. And the water heater had exploded on the bottom and was letting water in the garage, letting water in the room next to the water heater inside the house, and some hallways and closets. I was so blessed that I had cleaned out those particular areas just a few days before. So there was almost nothing on the floor to be damaged. And I was able to catch it very quickly. Called and had the water turned off to the house, and called and was able to have someone come out that very day to help me with the water heater. And they came in and they changed out the water heater, and I was able to bring a company in to help with all the water in the house. Such a blessing that I was there, such a blessing that people were able to take care of it instantly. I was able to get 0% interest financing for the whole thing. My credit didn't matter. Just such a blessing overall. And we look at all of this. I could also look at it as, oh, it's a terrible thing. My house is waterlogged and I have to get a new water heater, and on the list goes. What frequency of reality are we going to create? I was grateful for the concern of other people, the compassion of other people in the whole experience. They were amazed at how gracious and happy I was with the experience, because I chose to be in a higher timeline, a higher reality. Yeah, so can you do that? Everything is energy, and that's all that it is. Match the frequency of the reality you want and get that reality. I called a friend yesterday, and we were talking about the water heater, and I was telling him about it, and he was laughing that I had to get a new water heater and that I need to get my house fixed. And I realized that my joy in any situation was being mirrored to me. The more you are in joy, the more you're living beyond your senses in the reality that you have chosen, the more that is mirrored to you in those around you.